Crystal lovers, Ashley here, and I am so excited to talk to you today about the upcoming spring equinox. This is one of my favorite times of year. I absolutely love the energy of the spring and the fall as the seasons are changing, things are transitioning, especially here in the northern hemisphere right now. Things are finally starting to warm up. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, and we've had our first few sunny days. The birds are chirping, my crocuses are popping left and right, my tiny little irises are blooming. It is so nice to spend some time out in the sunshine after a very long, dreary winter. So, if you are feeling a bit of joy starting to sort of bubble up inside of you with the return of the sun and feeling the land warm up, I'm starting seeds and getting ready to do all my fun gardening things. I hope you will join me for this quick chat on how we can incorporate crystals into our spring seasonal practices as well, because they have so much to share with us this time of year. So, this has become a really important part of my spiritual practice. Like, one of the ways that I really like to connect with the seasons and the cycles of energy is by turning to the wheel of the year. This is a relatively new practice for me still. I've only been really working with the wheel of the year for a few years, but I've been finding this journey of exploring these different holidays and seasonal energies to be really fulfilling and enjoyable. So if you have been looking at ways that you can connect more deeply with the Earth's natural cycles, with the world around you, with the land, is as part of your spiritual practice in particular, as you celebrate the spring equinox, I hope this will be really helpful. So why might we want to do this? First of all, why is this important? Well, the wheel of the year helps us tune into these natural cycles. It helps us get into flow and alignment and in rhythm and sync with the energies around us, similar to how we might work with the lunar phases, right? During the lunar cycle in a given month. Maybe there's certain things you do at the new moon versus the full moon or the first quarter moon or the last quarter moon. Well, working with the seasonal cycles is very similar. And what's great about the Wheel of the Year is it helps us recognize more than just our four common seasons of spring, summer, fall, and winter. It's actually separated into 8 main holidays, representing different seasonal cycles that focus on the 4 solar holidays of the year. These are known as the quarter days, and they stem from Anglo-Saxon cultural observations all in the modern Wheel of the Year, although these quarter days or these solar holidays were recognized in cultures across the globe. So there's also in the Wheel of the Year the addition of 4 Gaelic, more agrarian or seasonal celebrations that are the midpoints between the solar holidays, and these are known as the lunar cross quarter days. So, although some of the holidays that are observed in the Wheel of the Year are quite old and have been celebrated for hundreds or thousands of years, the Wheel of the Year itself is a fairly modern concept, being developed in the late 50s. And though I don't personally follow the spiritual tradition that accompanies the contemporary Wheel of the Year, I find it a really helpful tool and way to think about the passage of time and what's happening in the world around us as we move through these seasonal cycles. And I tend to personally identify a little bit more with the cross quarter days, as they stem primarily from Ireland, but from a few other pan-Celtic cultural traditions, depending on where you're sort of turning for resources information, which just align a little bit more closer with my personal ancestral heritage that I'm in the process of reclaiming. And so I find those to be times for myself that I feel so much more tuned into the world around me. Not that I don't also enjoy those moments of reflection at the quarter days, so spring equinox, summer solstice, autumn equinox, and winter solstice. I find those useful as well. But those cross quarter days are extra special for me and hold some deeper significance. So let's talk a little bit about the spring equinox, because it's a pretty important day in the annual calendar. So sometimes it's called Ostara, and that comes from the wheel of the year terminology. But the spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere is the first of the quarter days in a given calendar year, which marks the second of the spring holidays. It's the midpoint between Imbolc, which is the first cross quarter day, and Beltane, which is the second cross quarter day. So, spring equinox, again sometimes called Ostara, is celebrated on the day of the vernal equinox, which is determined by when the sun is directly over the Earth's equator. And this can range in date each year, it depends, from March 19th through the 22nd. This year it's really early. It happens to be on March 19th, so we're having an early equinox. And these modern sort of Ostara celebrations stem from that contemporary wheel of the year, which I just mentioned, where Ostara is celebrated at the time of the spring equinox. Because this is a time of new beginnings, of reemergence of life after the depths of winter. And over on my blog post and podcast this week, I have a little video to share with you of an altar that I created for spring equinox, and it's a time-lapse video, so you can see how I put together a lot of the things that I'm going to share with you here today. Some of my favorite crystals and colors and symbols and herbs, all to sort of call in the energy of spring equinox. So you'll see all those things sort of make an appearance in this altar creation video. So if you want some inspiration on how you can work with some of the things I'm going to discuss, by all means, please go give that a look over at loveandlightschool.com. I've linked it here in the video description. So I want to start by sharing some of my favorite crystals to capture the energy of the spring equinox. So I love green aventurine. It has that energy of growth, of new beginnings, which is so perfect for this time of year. There's also pink opal, which I think, yeah, I have a little piece of here. I have a piece that is from Peru, and it's this really soft pink. It's so incredibly lightweight, and this is a really interesting, just little rough piece. But I love this stone, especially for this time of year. It's all about sort of nurturing, fertility, compassion. It really brings in this energy of being held, of appreciating beauty, of pausing to find moments of joy, even when you're sort of emerging from the darkness. So as we're coming out of this darker half of the year into the lighter half of the year, I love working with pink opals. This is a really good one. There's also Moonstone, which is phenomenal for connecting with the energy of the spring equinox. So I have a little piece of rainbow moonstone. I wonder if I can get it to do its blue flash. Having a little hard time getting that on camera, apologies, but Moonstone is lovely because it's all about tapping into cycles of energy. So this is an excellent crystal companion to have by your side as we are approaching the spring equinox and even into the spring season. This is sort of like, for many people, we view this as the start of a new year. It's all about that fresh start, things beginning and growing and changing. So this is a great companion just to help you sort of regulate and find balance amongst all that changing energy. There's also Bloodstone, which is a phenomenal crystal to work with this time of year. It helps you just be really rooted in and connected to nature, super grounded, sort of connected to the world around you and what's happening, and notice all those changes. Notice how things are reawakening and feel that sense of vitality that comes with the spring season. So that's a really good one, some Bloodstone. There's also lepidolite, and it doesn't matter if you're working with rough crystals, tumbled crystals, palm stones, anything like that. You can just have these on your person, place them on your altar, maybe use them to create a crystal grid. So many different ways. And again, I do have that little time-lapse video of my spring equinox altar over on the blog. And here is a piece of rough gemmy lepidolite. So you can see the beautiful formations of this sort of sheet-like lepidolite mica. And it's so gemmy and soft. It reminds me of the color of lilac blossoms. It has that sort of freshness. It's also a great crystal for calming and finding peace. So just allowing yourself to be present through all these changes, it's a really good one. There's also citrine. So I always like working with natural citrine. It is a stone that I think really captures the sort of radiance of the sun. And as we get to the spring equinox, that time where the night and the day are equal, that's where we get the equinox word from. From this point forward, so from March 19th forward, here in the northern hemisphere, we'll have more daylight hours than we do nighttime hours, which is so nice. It's always so rejuvenating, and connecting with citrine to welcome in that sort of solar energy is a phenomenal companion for that. There's also morganite. Morganite is the pink variety of beryl. This is a really great stone for recognizing your inner beauty, for focusing on self-love and acts of care for others. So maybe using this opportunity, this fresh start, to get involved in your community, to, focus on some community care, some support, some nurturing of yourself as well, like filling your cup so you can be of service to others. Morganite is a great reminder to do that. There's also heliodor, which is the golden or yellow variety of beryl, so sort of a cousin to morganite, and it's literally named for Helios, the sun god. So it's again about welcoming the warmth of the sun, that radiant energy of spring into your space, into your life. So this is an excellent crystal. There's also rhodonite. Rhodonite is one of my favorite crystals for new beginnings. So whether that's a new career, a new friendship, changing cycles or patterns in your life, rhodonite's a great companion for new beginnings of all types. So it makes sense to bring it into this new season, this change of the season as we head into spring. There's also aquamarine, the blue variety of beryl. Aquamarine is one of my favorites, and I think I have a little, oh, maybe I set it across the room in my altar. I did have a cute little sphere of it. I think I put it on my water altar. So aquamarine, great for cleansing, for release. So letting go of the things that no longer serve you, that you don't want to carry forward from the dark half of the year, from the previous season. Time to sort of let those things go so you can be a little bit lighter and move forward. Aquamarine is an excellent companion for that. And then there's rose quartz. Rose quartz always has this sweetness that reminds me so much of the sweetness of spring. So thinking of those first blossoms of the crocuses and irises and snowdrops, and tulips and daffodils, like rose quartz, I feel like embodies that energy, that joy you feel when you see the first dots of color in the landscape after a long cold winter. Like that's sort of the vibe and energy rose quartz has to me. It's also a great stone for forgiveness and for healing grief. So if there's something you've been grieving as we move into spring, if you need to sort of let that go, ground out that energy, rose quartz can be a great companion. I also like golden quartz. There's golden healer quartz, and then there's also just golden quartz, which more usually comes from India, and the gold color in a golden quartz goes all the way through the stone, whereas a golden healer, it's more like on the surface of the crystal. And these are usually created by deposits of iron in the stone. And so this golden quartz again is has that golden radiant energy of the sun, but because of that iron, it also really grounds us into the earth. It connects us with the land and all the changes that are happening. There's also amethyst, which is a crystal that I love, love, love. It's so underutilized. And amethyst is really about that connection to spirit, that connection to cosmic energy, to the universe. It's great for meditation. So if you need to sort of slow down and be present and listen to those messages from your guides, from your ancestors, then amethyst can be really helpful to give you that information, to help pass along those messages of what's important as you move into this next season. There's also Eclipse Jasper, which is actually a really sort of low grade quality form of bumblebee jasper. It just doesn't have as much of the orange. It's a little bit more yellow and gray, but it's all about balance and finding balance, and it's so perfect for this time of the equinox. So if you're looking for that balance of dark and light, in terms of what the sun and moon or solar and lunar energies bring into our lives, working with Eclipse Jasper can be really powerful. And then finally, there's Yellow Jasper. I think this has the color of like a vibrant natural clay, sort of connecting with the soil, connecting with the land, reminding us that, you know, when we go to plant our seeds, both figuratively and literally, when we go to plant our seeds, we need to nourish the soil. We need to feed the soil where we're planted. So taking care of all of the things in the physical realm, you know, health, career, things like that, to make sure that we have that stable, solid foundation so that whatever new seeds we are planting are going to be rooted into a healthy soil. This is a good crystal to have as a companion. So, spring equinox is all about the time for abundance, renewal, fertility, growth, balance, bringing joy, new beginnings and changes, taking action on the things that we've maybe been thinking about or planning over the past few months during the dark half of the year. It's about blessings and the return of the light, celebrating the return of all things green and growing, the coming of spring, and the energy of rebirth. So this is like a time of great shift. So Ostara, or the spring equinox, is ushering in the return of longer days, the renewal of the land, and at this time, plants and animals are starting to wake up from their winter slumber. We're starting to see maybe the first bees buzzing around, and nature really feels like it's coming alive. The earth begins to warm up, and we even, to some extent, feel a little bit more alive and sort of rooted into what's going on around us. As the land starts to thaw from its winter freeze, seeds can be sown, new crops can be planted, the birds and bees and insects are sort of returning to the sky, and traditionally, the livestock that would have been born at Imbolc, the previous cross quarter day on February 1st, are now growing and being reared by their mothers, so it's a time of growth and celebration. The vernal equinox, when light and darkness are equal, means that, again, from this day forward, the days are going to continue to lengthen, and really from March 19th, the day of the spring equinox, this will happen, until the time of the summer solstice, which will be the day with the greatest amount of sunlight all year. So for this reason, the spring equinox is celebration of the sun, of the dawn, and of that return of radiant light. So if you're looking for some ways to celebrate the spring equinox, I have an amazing new spring equinox guidebook and kit, which includes a card spread for the spring equinox, a crystal grid recipe and printable crystal grid base, a ton of different correspondences, methods of celebrating the spring equinox, and there's also a guided meditation. So in addition to the card spread and the grid and the little guidebook with all the correspondences for creating your own celebrations, there's the most beautiful, this might be my favorite one I've done, guided meditation for the spring equinox, where you take this amazing journey to discover a special symbol or message for yourself for this time of year. So if you're interested in learning more about that, the link is in the description for this video. You can head over and check it out. It's actually on sale because it's its debut release until Tuesday, March 19th, which is the spring equinox. That's in 1 week. So if you're looking for some ways to celebrate, that guide can be really helpful. Definitely go check it out. But I wanted to give you a few ideas here as well on how you can celebrate. So feasts are a really common way to celebrate any major holiday. So, you know, bringing some in-season produce or things into a meal especially can be really grounding and an excellent way of connecting with that seasonal energy. Most of you will be familiar with the custom of dyeing or painting eggs this time of year, or even using them in an Easter egg hunt or just an egg hunt. Or if you look to older traditions, there were egg rolling races where hard boiled or wooden eggs were used as a fun spring game. You can also create a bouquet of spring flowers and place it on your altar or in your home. It's important if you're gathering these that you only gather them from places where you have permission to do so and that you only take what you need, that you leave much more than you take. The pollinators really, really rely on these early spring blossoms, especially this year because things are waking up so early. We've had really early warm days. We need to make sure that our bee friends especially have plenty of nectar to sort of keep them going in case we have another cold snap. You can also bake some fresh bread. Creating or baking hot cross buns this time of year is a common custom. You can also prepare a salad with some early spring greens. So if you have some lettuce or arugula or some little herbs, I saw my chives are popping up. So I might do something, sprinkling some chives into a dish pretty soon. These are things that you can grow yourself. If you are familiar with foraging, you may carefully forage for things like dandelion leaves. Usually the young leaves this time of year taste really good. And you can go on a walk or a hike in nature, take some photos to capture the return of the spring season. I think this helps us sort of take our time and pause to look at those little literal like snapshots, those little moments in the season. And you can even print these out and put them on your altar or create some spring equinox themed grimoire pages or journal pages, and maybe muse on the energy of spring. Maybe write a little poem to accompany each picture that you've taken, or some sort of journal entry about what caught your eye about that little sign of spring. And it's just about taking notice of the world around us. So you can also take this time to be really intentional with your shadow work. Again, the equinox being that time of balanced light and darkness can be really powerful for shadow work. You can create that seasonal nature altar. You can follow along with the video over on my blog post, adding your items that you've maybe collected from nature or some things that symbolize spring for you. You can plan your garden or start some vegetable seeds or maybe some flower seeds. And you don't have to have a big space to do this. Even just a small pot with a few seeds of basil or lavender or something that you really like to grow is such a beautiful way to tap into the energy of this season, especially planting those with intention. You can do some spring cleaning and some blessing of your home space. This always feels so good. Throw the windows open, give things a good dust, declutter, release things, pass them along, find new homes for them. This can be really, really powerful to both, get that little bit of spring cleaning going, but also to tap into that power of community care and sharing and generosity that the spring brings. You can also enjoy some delicious spring treats, especially honey and honeycomb are thought to really connect with the energy of the season. So I hope this gives you some ideas of the ways that you can celebrate, but if you want to bring some more symbolic energy into any of those practices, or again onto an altar that you're creating, or some sort of representative energy of spring for you, even if you don't want to call it like a dedicated altar, you can bring in these symbols. So hares and rabbits, eggs, baskets, chicks, butterflies, tulips, daffodils, pansies, violets, lilacs, strawberry plants and strawberries, honey and honeycomb and bees are great symbols of the spring season, lambs and other baby animals, robins and other birds, especially birds that are like returning to your area that you're starting to see more in your area after a long winter, grass and seeds and rain and asparagus shoots and radiant sunlight. All of these things make great symbols of the spring equinox. There's also some herbs that I like to incorporate into my work at this time, and I usually leave these as offerings on my altar as I'm calling in different deities or energies to work with. So, some herbs that you may want to consider working with, and a caveat here, please only work with herbs in a way that is aligned with how much knowledge you have about them, making sure that you're being really safe, not working with anything that's poisonous or toxic or that you may be allergic to. So, some herbs that I like to work with are alder, apple blossom, broom, catnip, and cleavers, which is one of my favorites, cornflower, dill, which I'm growing right now. I have some in my kitchen and it smells so good, hawthorn, Irish moss, lavender. My lavender is sort of just waking up from the winter. Lemongrass is a great one, especially if you live more in a southern climate here in the US. You probably have some lemongrass that's maybe waking up or getting pretty big. Meadowsweet is excellent, so is spearmint and sweet woodruff. If you want to incorporate some color energy through different crystals, different symbols, maybe a cloth on your altar, pink, yellow, lavender, green, and aqua blue or light blue are great colors for the spring equinox. And if you want to learn more, again, head over to that blog post on my website. And I also have some suggested reading and sources where a lot of this information was compiled from, in addition to my own sort of connection and knowledge. And Sandy says, I saw my first crocus bed sprouting today. That makes me so happy. Mine have been up for just about maybe 10 days, but they're huge today. I mean, they're fully open and beautiful. This past weekend, my husband and I built 10 new raised garden beds for our vegetable garden, preparing for our vegetable garden. I have all my seeds organized and ready for sowing, like in a big wave this weekend, and then we'll do a few more in a couple weeks. Yeah, I hope that you can find a way to incorporate crystals and all these energies of spring into your spiritual practice, into something that feels really fulfilling and joyful for you. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in and watching. I hope this has been helpful. If you want to check out even more, listen to my podcast, check out my little video all about creating a spring equinox altar. Be sure to head over to the blog post that I've linked here in the description of the video so you can watch and see sort of how I created my video for some inspiration. And then also, if you want to learn even more and get that digital kit with the guided meditation, the card spread, the crystal grid recipe, that link is available for you here as well. So check it out before that sale ends. It's on sale right now for $7.77 until March 19th. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll enjoy all those tools and resources. And until I see you again, many crystal blessings. Bye.